This is the Ace of Cups, an almost forgotten all-girl rock band from the late 60s. In a moment, I'm going to be talking a little bit about their history and review their new debut album. But first, if you like what I'm doing, be sure to click like, click subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you can know when I release new videos. Now let's talk about the Ace of Cups, the lost all-female rock band from the late 1960s.
Close my eyes. If you're not there, then I don't want to see.
Formed in 1967 during the San Francisco Summer of Love era, Ace of Cups was a pioneering all-female rock band. The members of Ace of Cups were Mary Gannon, bass, Denise Kaufman, guitar and harmonica, Mary Ellen Simpson, lead guitar, Marla Hunt, organ and piano, and Diane Vitalik on drums. Except for Vitalik, each member of the band sang lead vocals and all five sang backup, with songwriting divided among all the band members. In the short 4 years they were together, they became well known within the Haight-Ashbury San Francisco music scene and played some impressive gigs, sharing the stage with acts like the Jefferson Airplane, Santana, and the band. One performance had them opening for Jimi Hendrix just 1 week after his now classic Monterey Pop Festival performance. When Melody Maker magazine interviewed Hendrix about his recent stop in America, he mentioned Ace of Cups. "I heard some groovy sounds last time in the States, like this girl group, Ace of Cups, who write their own songs, and the lead guitarist is hell. Really great." Record labels expressed interest in the band, but a record deal never materialized, and by the early 70s they had broken up. In recent interviews, members of the band have expressed different opinions as to why they never got signed and why they eventually broke up, but one reason they all seem to agree on is that they started getting into relationships, having children, and before long, they had to put music aside in order to raise their families. The history of rock and roll is filled with stories of bands and music artists with lots of talent who seemed poised for success, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't in the cards. Life happened, and music industry success eluded them. And as someone who enjoys seeking out some of rock history's more obscure musical treasures, I can attest to this. Usually you don't get a second chance at this sort of thing, so it's really a kind of small miracle that 50 years later, this pioneering all-female rock band has released their debut album on Hymen Records. Now, a few words about Hymen Records. They are a specialty label known for resurrecting long out of print and lost recordings from music history. Some of their releases include Two Sides to Every Story, a long out-of-print solo album from Founding Birds member Gene Clark, Black Beauty, the never-before-released album by Arthur Lee's legendary band Love, and the unreleased Warner Brothers album by singer-songwriter Terry Dolan. But unlike the previous albums I just mentioned, Ace of Cups' debut album is not a lost recording from rock and roll history. It's brand new.
I really like it 'cause it makes me feel so good.
This album reunites 4 of the original members and is produced by Dan Shea, who has produced mega acts like Santana, Jennifer Lopez, Mariah Carey, and Janet Jackson. Prior to the recording of this album, the Ace of Cups were a largely forgotten band, and I have to admit that I had not heard of them until just recently. But so well known were they during the San Francisco Summer of Love music scene that when word did get out that they were recording their debut, old musical acquaintances came out of the woodwork to offer their support. For this reason, the album includes appearances by Bob Weir, Taj Mahal, Buffy St. Marie, and Jorma Kaukonen, to name a few. And when contacted by Hymen Records to see if I was interested in reviewing this album, I still had not yet heard of them, but said that I would give it a listen. At this point, I want to state that Hymen Records did send this album to me, but my opinions are my own. The album is 26 tracks with a running length of just under 1 hour and 30 minutes. And there is, quite frankly, enough material on this debut release to make up 2 albums, and I will circle back to that comment in a moment. So the first thing that really struck me about this self-titled release, and that continues to strike me with each listen, is just how youthful the songs and the band sound. The 4 remaining members are past what most of society refers to as retirement age, but listening to the album, you would never realize it. The songs carry a youthful exuberance that feels like it's coming from 20-somethings and not from 60 and 70-somethings, and this carries through in both the instrumental and vocal performances. There is also a timelessness to the majority of the songs and their production, feeling and sounding like they could have just as easily been recorded back in the late 60s as they could have been recorded by a lot of the newer, younger bands I have discovered that wear their classic rock influence proudly on their sleeves. Now, I was sent the 2-disc vinyl edition of the Ace of Cups self-titled album, and side 1, tracks 1 through 6, carry a strong pop rock aesthetic, representing a young band whose songs are filled with bounce and want to have a good time, and includes the instantly infectious opening rocker, Feel Good. And let's listen to a little bit of that.
There's a whole lot of people trying to mess with your mind. When you were just a little child, they filled you in with every sin they could find. Telling you it's wrong to want my good loving. One way for you to know for sure. Does it feel good, baby? Tell me, how does it feel?
Tracks 6 through 11, which is side 2 on vinyl, feels a little bit more introspective, like a band maturing both musically and lyrically, but still maintaining its pop sensibilities. This side features Bob Ware on the outstanding track, The Well.
I can tell by the look in your eyes, you've been drinking from the well where the water runs deep. Drinking from the well where the water runs deep. You know this world is upside down, and love is hard to find.
Tracks 12 through 19, or side 3, embraces a more roots, blues, and folk influence, and leaves most of the band's pop influences aside, the only exception being the side 3 opening rocker, Stones. Here's a listen to Life in Your Hands featuring Taj Mahal.
Before too long, that little baby be grown up and gone. Before too long, little bitty baby has a babe of her own.
Life in your hands.
Life in your hands.
Life in your hands.
Life in your hands.
Side 4, tracks 20 through 26, opens with the strong blues rocker Pepper in the Pot, and continues the genre exploring started with side 3, but now bringing back more of the rock and pop back into the mix. It features the epic 9-minute medley stringing 3 songs together into a 60s style montage of folk, jam rock, and psychedelia. Now let's listen to a little bit of the acoustic blues driven Grandma's Hands, one of my favorites on the entire album.
Grandma's hands soothe the local unwed mother. Grandma's hands used to ache sometimes and swell. Grandma's hands used to lift her face and tell her, she'd say, baby, Grandma understands that you really love that man. Put yourself in the good Lord's hands. Grandma's hands.
I am grateful to Hymen Records for sending me this album on vinyl, not because I prefer the format, although most of the time I do, but because listening to the album in 4 sides highlighted just how much each record side sounds like 4 mini albums or EPs, each one representing the musical chronology the band might have taken had they been signed back in the late 60s and allowed to record albums over the course of a handful of years. The album concludes with the gospel-tinged a cappella track, simply entitled Music. A song with a simple message. It's the music that matters. And when was the last time you heard a band say that so unashamedly in their music? Before I listened to a note of their music, I read the band's story. And after reading their story, I deliberately avoided looking at any pictures of the band while listening to the album. I did this because I didn't want to subconsciously judge this music as being made by anyone elderly. I just wanted to judge it as music. After several listens and knowing what I wanted to say about their music, I took the time to look at the pictures in the booklet, both old and recent. I watched the recent interviews with the current band, and once again, it blew me away just how youthful the music on this album sounds. The back cover of the enclosed album booklet features the words, "To be continued," as if to say we aren't done yet. And I found this image, not to mention the album itself, to be incredibly inspiring. There is so much unspoken ageism in the music industry and in our current music culture. And the fact that I didn't want to look at any photos of the band before listening tells me that I can be guilty of it too. In my lifetime, I have seen so many musician friends eventually shrug their shoulders, throw in the towel and say, "I'm too old now." But you're not. Music isn't about age, it's about passion, and you can be passionate at any age. You're never too old, and you never know what the future might bring. And it's inspiring to hear these 4 women prove this. This is TJR, and that's my review. The Ace of Cups debut album is available on vinyl, CD, and available for streaming on all popular streaming services like Apple Music, Tidal, and Spotify. And you can also order it directly at hymenrecords.com. I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters who are making videos like this possible. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I look forward to reading what you have to say in the comments.